Hey everyone, welcome back to the Diet Doc Life Mastery Podcast. I'm Joe Klemczewski with Dr. Kori Propst. We're going to continue talking about chaos and devastation and
pain.
Your colleagues stole your cookie and all of the things that just make life just fall apart.
That's an important one.
It
People
is
stealing food.
It would be for me. You take my cookie, your life's is gonna be hurting.
I've seen your cookies. They're as big as your face.
Yes. But Kori, I was listening to an educational podcast yesterday and heard a quote from Carl Jung, who said that he's often overwhelmed sometimes by clients in his day who would come to him and they would just be completely incapacitated, feeling like whatever I'm going through right now, like this is the end. Like there is no coming back for this. Life is over. And he would have to remind them through story, like, hey, have you heard about this person and this person and this person? And show them that other people have gone through similar circumstances and survived. And he said that just brings everybody kind of back to center, and they feel like, oh, okay, like I'm not the only one, and I might even be able to control this outcome with a little help. And I know that's what you want to talk about today, which is how to dig into that control that we all have internally.
Because we all want that. How often do we hear a client say, I want more control? And so, the concept that I wanted to discuss today is called locus of control. So where is that control located? And in your example, these individuals were kind of locating the control outside of themselves. Like, this happened to me. The world is conspiring against me. And if we're going to take it to an extreme, I don't have any measure of influence over this. Versus if we have an internal locus of control, we go inward and we can ask the questions to be able to say, okay, yeah, this sucks. I don't like this. It's uncomfortable. It's not ideal. If I could go back in time, I would not have this happen. And since it did, how is this happening for me? What can I learn from this? And how can I move forward with the understanding that, no, it feels devastating, but I know there's some step I can take. There's some amount of influence or control that I can have. So that's exactly it. It's our orientation to life. Is this happening to me from the outside coming in, or is this happening for me, and how, and what are the reasons? And Joe, when I went through my accident, this was something, like everything else we've discussed, that I had to ask myself and reconfirm for myself repeatedly. Like, what can I learn from this? So digging in internally and asking myself, like, what's important here? Because I can't do this. What can I do instead? Part of that was really getting honest with myself and operating from a place of personal respect and integrity. And this may sound completely off base and unrelated, but in order for me to view the situation from a space of what can I learn from this, what can I do, it had to come from a place of like honor and compassion and acceptance. Because if it didn't, I would end up in that place of shame and blame. And again, this happened to me. There's nothing I can do. Woe is me. Now I'm the victim. So there were multiple times where I found myself in that place of, okay, affirming that I didn't like it, affirming that it was uncomfortable, affirming that I wished it could be different, and yet here I was, and how could I be on my own side?
Well, luckily for me, my limbic system isn't connected to the rest of my brain. So I don't instantly go internal and start processing all of these feelings like you do.
Yeah.
I just go into work mode. And here's an example. You can analyze me. I'll lay down on the couch here if you want. But you made me think of when we had our house fire, and this tests a person like me who says I'm not materialistic. When you're sitting on your front porch, your house is burned down, and everything you've ever owned is now gone. I mean, there's Joe at 10 o'clock at night with 4 kids in Walmart buying toothbrushes, buying everybody a pair of underwear for the next day.
Immediate needs. You're focused on immediate needs.
Yeah, because now you have nothing. And that was just it. That was my point. Sometimes you lose so much all at once that all you can see is that next tangible step. Well, let's see. Gosh. I think I need a toothbrush. But so that can, this is probably not the best example, but I think it was one forced upon me that made it easier to just take one step at a time. What can I do next? To quote you, what can I control right now? What in this whole circumstance can I do to just take the next best step? And that's how we work through something like that.
Yeah. And I think it depends on, like you said, the situation, your house fire versus a bike accident where, I was injured, but I didn't lose a limb. I'm not in a wheelchair for the rest of my life without use of parts of my body. Like, yes, there are effects of the trauma that linger, but I'm not succumbing to them, if that makes sense.
And I've seen other people go through this, through fires, floods, and hurricanes and tornadoes. I see people like just weeping and crying to a reporter that they've lost everything. And I just never had that moment. I'm like, okay, it's just stuff. How do I make sure that tomorrow starts out okay?
And again, that comes back to orientation and just all of the individual differences in how we're going to process it. Like, there's some grief involved in any sort of trauma, and everyone's going to go through that cycle of grief in a different way and backtrack and then come back and backtrack again and take 2 steps forward and 1 step back. That's
a good point. I mean, there was definitely trauma. I mean, there we were laying in the hotel bed, that night going, oh my gosh, what just happened? Like what are we going to do? There was trauma, but because everybody was safe, because we felt like, this is going to be okay. We're going to get through this. It was easier to move quickly into process instead of just being stuck in pain. Yeah.
And you weren't alone. So we come back to, you had your family with you, had someone died. The whole sequence of events would have turned out differently. There would have been the sobbing and the, oh my God, part of it. So, yeah. Your orientation was lifted up by the fact that the people who were closest to you were still there with you.
Yeah, and this wasn't a situation of, this happening to me or for me. It just happens, as an existentialist, you just get used to randomness, and I expect things to happen. I expect bad things to happen. So when they happen, let's kind of tackle it. So that is part of that orientation, that locus of control is I'm always just going to be able to work through anything as long as I have, life in me and support around me.
I will figure it out. I may not know what that will look like, but I will figure it out.
Absolutely. That's awesome stuff, Kori. Any final words to wrap this up?
No, that's it.
You look like you're ready to call it.
Orient yourself towards life not happening to you guys, but things happen. And believe that you have the capacity to figure it out.
I agree. Dr. Kori Propst, health psychologist, wellness director of the Diet Doc. And we are the Diet Doc Life Mastery Podcast. So you guys check us out on any platform you want. I don't know where you're hearing or watching this, but we're on Spotify now, YouTube. You can go to our website, thedietdoc.com, Stitcher, SoundCloud, everywhere. So wherever best for you, Apple, feel free to drop us a review. Those are important. Giving us those 5-star ratings helps other people think that, hey, this may be worth listening to. So we appreciate you guys, and we will catch you next time.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Joe.